afternoon, Sangha. Just a few announcements before we get started today. Please silence your phones if you're here in the sanctuary, or please mute your microphone at home. Due to a recent COVID exposure, Heartwood is closed to outside visitors through September 29th, at which reopening will be reassessed. Please continue to join us for Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday Dharma on Zoom and YouTube. The Novena prayers for September will actually occur this Thursday, September 9th. There's still time to send in your confidential prayer requests for yourself or loved ones, which can include pets, who are sick, suffering, misfortune, or departed. Please send those requests to prayer@heartwoodrefuge.org. Please like, follow, and share Heartwood and Thrifty Treasures on all social media to help us spread the Dharma and further Heartwood's missions. And that's it for today. Thank you so much.
I sent a document to you. Did you see that?
To receive that?
Mm-hmm.
Or need it?
To see that?
I'll check.
My problem is that I can't get, something's wrong with my Word, and it wouldn't let me in. Let's see for a minute, and if you can take care of that while I talk about other things. I think that'll work out okay. Yes, you can. You can. You can help me.
Okay. Just print it real quick for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Santa Caro, will you coming to do something?
I'm sorry?
Will you coming to do something?
Oh, I was just checking to make sure the little road thing was on, the white box is on, the one hooked up to the microphone.
Okay. So it's so wonderful to be back and to see everyone today. I can't really see you though because I'm looking at the software control. Oh, that's wonderful. That's what I wanted to see who was here today. So I guess we could open up with incense burning, and then we'll dive in. Incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas appear. We pay homage, we offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage, we offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense So it was a most auspicious time with Master ZZ and with Buddha Master in California the last 2 weeks. And I have to say that, at least speaking for myself, I have not come back to myself yet, and that's a good thing. The Buddha always speaks to us about how we can know when the timing is right according to our own direct experience. And we're all on different time schedules, time frames, according to our own individual karma and according to our own individual good fortune. So what can seem good for one is not necessarily good for another. And this is where the path gets a little tricky, because in the beginning, everything can be spoken of in absolutes. For instance, like we say, everything changes and shifts because everything is impermanent. But the truth, the absolute, ultimate Dharma stays the same. But actually, it's always changing because it's changing. Thank you so much, sister. It's changing, according to causes and conditions and what needs to be articulated, accentuated, expressed in the present moment with the beings present. So everything is sort of is and isn't. It's like a two-sided coin. You just can't have a coin with one side. And sometimes this gets tricky and difficult to understand if we try to analyze it too closely. We just know some things just are. It's just how it is. And if we can't figure it out and we don't have the words to figure it out, that doesn't change the fact that it just is. We have to get more comfortable without having everything so concretely defined, because that's where our stuckness is. That's what keeps us from going forward. That's what keeps us from being able to get out of a box. Is Tokum on her way to TT? Is that? Yes. And so sorry. And so a lot of what the Dharma does is tries to unstick us from a view that we have created, that we have concretized, that we have caused to manifest by our own narrowness, or only being able to see so far, or having a myopic view, or and that's so difficult for us. Children are more malleable. More pliable, easier to work with. But as we get older and older, we become fossilized way before our time. It doesn't take millions of years. It only takes a few years. And we cut ourselves off, not from something that is not attainable, not from a level of wisdom or development that is not attainable. It is absolutely attainable, but it seems like it's so unattainable. um, because we tenaciously cling to our views. And so if there's only one thing that someone learns from me before they leave me, is that to constantly question our own views, constantly question what we already know. The question is that enough? If it is, what else can I say? But if we know for ourselves that there must be more, then I say, keep looking. Striving in that way, striving in the sense of looking, just looking. And being willing to ponder and to be non-judgmental about what comes to us that seems different or even that seems strange. If we think back on our lives, it's how we all grew up, discovering something new every day from a little child, the wonderment of things, the inquisitiveness of things, because we didn't have such a concretized sense of self as the one who needs to know or who needs to make others think they know, or who would feel foolish if others thought they didn't know something. And so all these ways we begin to attach to ourselves. And instead of gaining, we lose. And we die like fools. Now, to some that might seem like harsh and vulgar language. But to the one who has tasted the Dharma and knows that there is something beyond what we can apprehend in our ordinary modes of operation, that sounds like good news. That's good news to me. But there's a way that we take in something else, something extra. And no one else can determine for us what that dosage should be. We can only assess our own dosage, you know. So I know I can take this much and no more right now. I know that I don't have enough yet. Give me more. I know this is about determining for oneself. And it's not anything for anyone else to judge. So I'd like to share a poem today. I consider this truly a Dharma poem. It's written by, her name is Judy. That part got cut off. Judy Brown. And it was in an email that was sent to me. And I thought how appropriate this is, just coming back from an extraordinary encounter with myself. Why do I say with myself? Because an old master once told me that a master is only a reflection of you. What's the difference between you and a master? The master knows they are one. At the core of their being, and we don't know. We don't know that we are also masters. And as we gaze in the face of the master and what that means, gaze in the face, all of these poetic terms today, gaze in the face of the master means that as we observe the conduct and the resultant brightnesses of the Master, then we see more surely who we also are. And we can endeavor to come into the fullness of the measure of the stature of that example. That's all. These things don't have to be complicated. They don't have to be spooky. They don't have to be weird. It's only our fears that rise up and deter us. So that's why there's good for there to be space. And this poem says, what makes a fire burn is the space between the logs. A breathing space. Too much of a good thing, too many logs packed in too tight can douse the flames almost as surely as a pail of water would. So building fires requires attention to the spaces in between as much as to the wood. When we are able to build open spaces in the same way we have learned to pile on the logs, then we can come to see how it is fuel and absence of the fuel together that make fire possible. We only need to lay a log lightly from time to time. And a fire grows simply because the space is there, with openings in which the flame that knows just how it wants to burn can find its way. And I think that's one of the best contemporary examples of Dharma that I have read in a long time. And how the Dharma comes in many shapes and forms and flavors. If we're looking for it, we can find it anywhere. We can find it everywhere. But we have to have a penetrating vision, eyes that can see, and ears that can hear. It's the yeah buts that pack in around the logs of our understanding and choke out the flame. And here she's speaking of how you build a fire. And if any of you built a fire, like this, yeah, there's definitely an art to it. But if you have too many of the logs all stacked against each other, the air can't get in there to fan the flames and allow, the fire to catch and to burn. So you pack them loosely and you stick kindling little sticks in between and you light them. And the necessity for having that space right there. And it's like that when we're learning the Dharma. We can't just pile log upon log upon log upon log on. It gets good in the beginning because we are aware that something is happening, that there is a fire catching hold. But if we don't have the skill in how to build it, we will choke out the fire instead of building it. It will only go so far and then it'll peter out. It can only go so far and then the logs will be singed, but the fire will not take hold. Then it becomes even more difficult to keep restarting And so there's the time of accelerated, concentrated, you know, uh, growth, and then there's the time of sitting back and reflecting and taking that in. And this is how we get to the fourth stage, which is implementing, or it's also called achievement. We can't always be striving to go further and further and further. We have to let there be a breathing space so that that which we got can come into its full blaze. And without that, we suffer loss. So the one thing, I learned so many things from Buddha Master while I was there in a non-teaching, teaching way. Some of you here in this room know what I mean. It wasn't just what he said. Sometimes it was what he didn't say. And you have to be thinking about what he said and like, why did he say that? I know there's got to be something behind it, but like, I don't know what it is. Can you just make it plain? Just make it plain to me. And he would not. Just left you with that. You figure out what your wrong view about that is. I'm just saying it's wrong. Go back and look at it again. That's it. And then you go back and you find you have the capacity to really think through things deeply. And then you start seeing all the little faults. When I say faults, I mean misapprehending of something. And not just, I thought it was like that, but it's actually like this. Not in that way. But it starts to be, it could be like this, or like this, or like this, or like this, or like this. Now, what does this particular situation call for? And when one can examine, the minutest details in that way and feel in, and when I say feel in, I don't mean feel in like feelings, because feelings can be truly there, but feelings are not necessarily a statement of truth about what's actually real or what's actually happening. That's just how you feel about it, based on any number of things, based on something happened in the past, based on fear of the unknown, based on not feeling it because it's not familiar, based on, so feelings cannot be our guide. So I don't mean feelings in that way, but I mean feeling into something, being able to go more deeply into it. At our Buddha Master's Museum, he had done a painting, and it's the only painting in the museum you can touch, and go ahead, touch it. The guide said, go ahead, touch it. And so you reach your hand up to touch it because you think there's the picture right there. And you go to touch it, but the picture's not there. You move your hand in a little deeper, and it creates an optical illusion like you've actually put your hand into the picture, and you still haven't touched the picture. You have to go even further, and now you actually touch the picture, but it looks like your whole hand has sunken into the picture, that what was solid is no more solid. And I think it is a wonderful example of the unenlightened notion of reality, what we call reality. Now, that was an example of an unspoken teaching. Do you see what I mean? And how even the artwork can teach us the Dharma if we're looking for it, if we're looking to understand something. And every day something comes to me like this, It's almost like something that grows, and it's just multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. but it's coming up from inside of me, not the outside. Inside, because of the willingness to have my eyes open. There was a song that I used to sing in church. And the song was, "Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see. I want to see." Now, actually, that song said, "I want to see you. I want to see you high and lifted up, surrounded in all of your glory." But for now, I can just say, "I want to see." Because, our objective is to come up to the fullness of the measure of the stature of the awakened ones. So let's just say that if I considered in Christianity Jesus of a certain stature, and I want to be like him, that's not I want to see him in all his glory, but I want to be just like him. And that takes it from being something that only one could inherit, but that also I can too. And that's what I like about the Dhamma. The Dhamma was like that picture, that optical illusion, that when I went to touch it, I found out that there was more, and my hand could go in and begin to penetrate something. And so now I'm on the same path, but further down the road. I don't want just Jesus to have it all, but I want that to be what he said. That is, it is all of our inheritance. One day somebody was knocking on the door and they said, "Jesus, your family's here." He said, "Who's my family?" He said, "Your mother and your brothers and sisters." And he turned and he looked at his congregation, his sangha. He said, "These are my mother and my brother and my children." He said, "Those who do the will of my Father, they are." And so there comes a time when we grow up, and instead of wanting everything handed to us or miraculously manifesting like my cat's food, cat doesn't have a clue. He just thinks 6 o'clock. That means if I go to my bowl, something's there, and bam, there it is. But he would starve if it wasn't for us. That's not maturing and growing up. That's being reliant upon. So when we take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, it is not in that same way, resting on the laurels or the completed work of others, but it is allowing their conduct to be an example for us of our true capacity. And combined with compassion gives us the enablement and the qualities of mind to save living beings. the wisdom to speak in season, the patience to guide, the compassion to forgive and to accept, and then ultimately see or come to the conclusion that there is even nothing to forgive. The actual, I like the way children just use, it could be a noun, it could be a verb. They don't care, they don't have to speak proper English. So it's just like to disappear an offense. I'm just going to disappear that offense. It's like it just never existed. Never was any offense. Never was any offender. That's the ultimate freedom. And that's not on the one who offended. That's on the one who took offense. This is where our freedom lies. It's not in the superficial teachings. It's not in Paul parroting them back and forth among each other, but in swallowing it and allowing it to disturb and purge us of all of our internal defilements of the mind, so I want you to understand what is happening. And because of our effort, not because of someone else or something else, but because of our effort, that which we did for ourselves, we are tasting the fruit of clear seeing, the fruit of an inquisitiveness that allows us to move fearlessly in the world, that allows us and encourages us and gives us the capability of uprooting our own defilements, of planting good seed and readying ourselves for a great harvest. And the thing is that when we do this for ourselves individually, it's the greatest work that we could do for others. Because then we no longer have to say something or even do something. We just simply, we be something. And that something that we be changes everything. Changes everything around us. It actually deconstructs and reconstructs the nature of appearances. That's what that means. That if a Buddha sees a lake of swords and jumps in, that lake is transformed into a lake of flowers. It means that from a certain point of view, from where they're seated and look out, they see something else. And the thought becomes the thing. This is the power of forsaking self for what is really true. And actually, it is effortless when one enters into it. It's only about the degree to which we are willing to change. So we need time to, I want you to understand what this 52 weeks is about. It's about spending each week examining and perfecting ourselves. Only through learning, looking, cultivating, implementing in the moment, and reflecting again and again. And if you did that, you could see how much we grow in every moment, or how much growth is possible, at least, in every moment. Because we are absolutely without excuse, except there has not been that looking, that pondering, that reflecting. But if we look, ponder, and reflect, and decide to implement, even when we feel like it's going to cost something, it's going to cost my reputation, this is going to cost me to lose a couple of my friends, this is going to cost, counting up the cost and weighing. And when we haven't gone through this process, sometimes we don't realize what's right in front of us. Been there all along. But I didn't have an exercise, or I didn't have a method of looking. So that's what these teachings are all about. They're just simply methods to help us turn inward and look deeply and see what's there and decide if that speaks to what one wants to be about as a human being first. Then we find that if we don't try so hard in our academic ways and in our career-oriented ways, and if we take the teachings like a loving father or a loving mother who shares these mysteries and secrets with us for our benefit and for our happiness and well-being, as opposed to rules to be obeyed or to be enforced, then we would receive them with great joy. I don't want to say too much about what happened in California, because some of it is still being unpacked. But I will say that a Buddha Master gave us a great challenge to join him in helping people wake up. And I don't take it lightly. And I also don't have fear. And it was comforting to me because he said, "Oh, don't worry, I will teach you." Now, when that's coming from somebody who you think they need to get their act together, that might not be that comforting. But when it comes from someone in whom you have great confidence, not blind faith, but because you can clearly see their worth, then that is very comforting. And already I sense the joining together of minds that makes one more concentrated. And I think that's all that I want to say about that. So it might be good news for you that I'll be holding my tongue more. I have less to say. And yet I will have more to share, more to say. One thing that stood out for me is there was Brother Vince there, and he's a I think Brother Vince is in the Vajrayana, hierarchy of who's who in the Sangha. I think he has I think he's a Dharma king. I'm not sure, but he said one thing. The Buddha master was talking, and he said there are 4 branches of activities that we do to learn from the Buddhas. One is listening and then contemplating what one has heard, and then putting into practice, putting that into practice. He said, and everybody in Buddhism does that. Listening means hearing and reading the true teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha, he said. Contemplation is when we become quiet and try to resolve the issues of life that concern us through deep reflection. Practice is when we actually do Dharma through meditation and visualization and speech, and would include chanting and so forth, or singing. And then he went on to say, and the 4th is very unusual because the sutras have been tampered with throughout the thousands of years. Because of this, people cannot obtain realization. And that's why people don't say anything about becoming accomplished. So in a way, we have learned false dharmas or incomplete dharmas. And then Brother Vince piped up and he said, yeah, don't practice no-use dharmas. Don't practice no-use dharmas. And then he gave some examples of things that we say, like a vow to save beings are limitless. I vow to save them all. He said, what kind of vow is that? He says, the vow you're not going to be able to keep. So if you say, before I enter Buddhahood, I vow to save all living beings, he said, you'll never enter. You'll never reach your goal. So he said, we have to really look at the things that we say, understand what we say. And when we take a vow, know what we're vowing to do and then live that vow. So there are some that I don't take because I know that I'm not going to live it. I'm not going to live that vow. So better not to take one than to take it and don't live it. There's some I have taken up that's not in the vow book because it's something that I knew I needed personally. And he ended his talk with us by saying, don't worry. Don't think you're not qualified. You will be empowered to do this. How are we empowered? We're empowered because of the fourth aspect of practicing true Buddha Dharma. The fourth aspect is accomplishment. I don't think there's anything hardly in the world that we do that we don't have an end game, that we don't see a finishing line, that we don't see a goal post. We're not like just running, and not know where we're running. But when we get into this, we don't have a goal in mind. So we dilly-dally on the left field and dilly-dally in the right field. But when we understand what the path is, then we have a clear sight to the finish line. And he said there are only two ways that we can learn. We must be selfless to learn, and the teacher must be selfless. And the very last thing that he said to us before, he spent 3 hours with us that day. He said, I hope I can find it. He said, when the Buddha Dharma is bright, it does not mean that it has succeeded. And when the Buddha Dharma is dim, it does not mean it has failed. When the Buddha Dharma is bright, it does not mean it has succeeded. And when the Buddha Dharma is dim, it does not mean it has failed. And that's a warning to not get too happy, too excited, too elated about things that we see as progress, and to not become sad or not to be deterred when we encounter obstacles. And it's for each one of us to find that resting place. So today we have Leela with us. Leela came to stay for a month. And 1 month turned into 2 months, turned into 3 months, turned into 4 months. Is this the 5th month? Turned into 5 months. She said, I gotta go. You know, I gotta go. Can I say 1 more month? I gotta go. Can I say 1 more month? And it has been 5 months, and I think 2 months in, she decided to take temporary monastic vows. And so as she will be leaving us and going back to reassess, I'd like to just give her a few minutes if she'd like to say something about her time here, about her journey. And I hope she will, but if she doesn't want to, that's really okay too. And she'd like to give back her robes and take back up the 5 lay precepts. And actually here, instead of the 5 lay precepts, we do the 10 virtues, which includes the 5 lay, and it breaks down a few of those troublesome ones for us a little more deeply. Leela. Could you stand right here? Say something and he'll let you know if you need to know. Just stand right there because the mic's right there. Hold on. You want me to do it this way and give her this?
I think she's fine if she
Okay.
just talks to me right there.
All right.
Oh, goodness. Hi, Sangha. Bhante, the time has come for me to return to lay life. I would like to return my robes and my monastic vows, and I would like to ask to return the 10 vows, and to ask for 10 vows. This time has been incredible for me, unlike anything I could imagine. I chose to take up the vows and the robes because of the Sangha here. And as many of you know, I've never experienced anything like a Sangha or this Sangha. And this is something that I will take with me forever. I have practiced Buddhism for a long, long time. And for me, it was different. It was always the 2 gems, the Buddha and the Dharma, and I didn't understand Sangha. I didn't have it, I didn't know it, I couldn't touch it, I had no experience of it. And then I came here and I met a Sangha, and I felt like I became part of a Sangha. And then finally for me, it was the 3 gems. And I thank you, Sangha, for that. I know I haven't realized a lot of things in my life, but that's something that I feel like has rounded out something that Buddhism is supposed to be, the Sangha. And I'm very grateful to you for that. I don't know what will come next. I would like to have a Sangha in my life, and hopefully I will keep you in my hearts forever. But living in community, living with Sangha has changed me and opened me in ways that I cannot express, but I am deeply grateful for it.
So I will give you our 10 virtues. I think you know them. Okay, so you can recite them with me. You all can recite them with us as well. The 10 virtues. I vow to avoid killing living things. I vow to avoid taking what is not given. I vow to avoid sensual misconduct. I vow to avoid false speech. I vow to avoid malicious speech. I vow to avoid harsh speech. I vow to avoid gossip. I vow to avoid covetousness. I vow to avoid ill will. I vow to avoid wrongdoing. So thank you so much for being with us today and for witnessing our robe exchange ceremony. And we wish Leela good fortune and success in life. And she spoke more today, I think, than I've ever heard her speak it at any one time. And even when she came, she had such a, it felt like a timidity, a timidness to like really speak, to just speak, like it, and let that land on you wherever it lands on you, you know. But this is what's coming from me. And I sent her over to Josh. He's an opera singer. I said, help her find her voice. You know, I said, what? Speak up. And so that's what I was always, what? I can't hear you. But and so I'm happy because I see a different assuredness. Mm-hmm. And a confidence that one can speak for themselves, and they don't have to take any other, hold any other view except that which is their own. So, Sangha, I will see you. Those of you that come join us on Thursday, I'll see you on Thursday, and maybe I'll be a little less still discombobulated, right? But pardon me, it's been many, many years. No, I'm a little hard to handle, and it feels good to be being held safely in the arms and the heart of someone who can handle me. So may you be well and happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you and no danger. May you always be able to meet the inevitable difficulties of life. Don't forget, at the end of the month, actually it's on Friday, October 1st, right, that Sada will be taking higher ordination. And what's so wonderful about it is, you know, like if you do some things like, yeah, that's over there and they did that thing. But when you do it in your own territory, like it's a real thing. And 1323, since 2013, Sada had been trying to become a nun, and of course in Cambodia they don't really have that. They don't have any bhikkhunis or anything like that, and so there was really no way for her to do. And in 2013, I gave her and 12 other women at that temple temporary ordination. And from that time on, she never gave that robe back. She would take it off and go back to her 8 precept role, which is like the mamas in the temples who take care of the temples, take care of the monks who do all the work, but like could never like, like wear the robe. And every year for a period of time, she would take temporary ordination. And then finally, she just decided, well, there's no legal way for me to get the robe in Cambodian Theravada, so I will just wear the robe and I'll live in a kuti in my backyard. And that's what she did for several years. And it came to me to go and see where she was and how she was doing a little over a year ago. And when I went about a year and a half, and when I went, she was in Cambodia at that time trying to see if anybody there. Somebody said, "Come over here, we can make you a nun and we can make something happen." But that didn't work, and so but she wasn't here in the United States. So I went back a few months later, Venerable Soma and I, and there she was. And I said, remember when you came and helped us open Heartwood 4 years ago? I said, we're still here, and I said, you are welcome to come. The next day, she said, come pick me up. I have my bags packed. And she said, I asked Oi. Oi said, okay, I go. She said, Oi is her husband, and Oi had been a monk for 10 years. And he had said to her she was free to go. And he said, and when you go, maybe I'll go back to being a monk. But anyway, that was a little over a year ago. And she has been here learning her English and really imbibing the Dharma in a very deep way. When we were in California, we spent 8 or 10 hours a day, like reading discourses, reading and discussing discourses. And she couldn't really participate, because of her limited ability to speak English and also to read and understand. But one night she came to my bed, and it was late in the night. Everybody had gone to bed. She said, Venerable, I have to tell you something. She said, I understand everything. She said, I understand everything. It's like something had come in here in my heart, and it tell me what everything is. Everything you all say all day. She said, I don't understand English, but I understand it. I understand it in here. And so she said, I'm ready. And I really believe that's true. That's what I'm saying. There's some things that go beyond the spoken word, and some ways that wisdom will be imparted to us beyond language. So catch that wave, my friends. Thank you. And I see you all. She says, well, I tell Venerable, sometimes Tarawat Dharma sleepy. She said, but over there, high Dharma. She said, I want high Dharma. And that's that fourth part, the fourth activity is the implementing. So we can't just rest on our laurels of roaming through the forest free like a bird, but there's something that we need to implement, right? And then we'll be fit for every good use. Yes, I know you do. Thank you so much.